Now that we screen, we start. Oh, Chris is not here because he's looking at Django Top. See how we can. But so you would think that I'd be the one organizer, but now we have Adam who has stepped up to be with us. So,
Thank you.
so thank you. Um, Planning on trying to organize people get through the Advent code in December and trying to encourage other recording challenges outside of our meetings. You want to add anything to it?
Yeah, I'm planning on setting up some sort of kind of contest for Adam and Code, do like a raffle, but for people that complete like first 10 days or so, I'll do like an actual announcement on the Discord. Um, yeah, if you're not on the Discord, join the Discord, because hopefully we'll make it more active than it is right now. It's kind of dead right now, but we'll, for the Adam and Code, we'll have like each day have like a non-spoiler and then a spoiler section to like discuss the solutions. So we can work through those, and then maybe on the coding night in December we'll work through some of those. Yeah.
I mean, for the rest of the year, are you scheduled to what this time is? So, Thursday. I think Adam was there while we were chatting, or there as well, but I noticed that we have some views on for the next seat of as reviews. Every time, thank you. If you are on the left review, not then showing it. So I think Scott Maybe Oil hasn't really been on these like that.
It's the very first.
Nice. So you were here for the Tom Wall. We're gonna continue doing that. Let's say better. I thought this is the last time that we work on developing full. Then after tonight, I'll go through and try to write the mediocre code and get it to playable thing. Then next month we'll go through and use the tests that we have to refine it. Just kind of get value test for development working. So with that, let's take a minute to review where we're at with the code. I do believe that we have the hands working, just not the actual play.
So we do have a couple bugs, and just so everyone's aware, I'm using VS Code instead of PyCharm because I don't have PyCharm. But down here in the bottom, right, just click that and it'll rerun the tests. Yes, rerun from there. We have this name error or evaluate dealer hand. So I guess we were in the middle of getting ready to write an evaluate dealer hand function. So we have evaluate hand, which plays into some of this blackjack stuff with the values of the cards. We have player, which is a list of cards in a hand, and is bust, and then a game object here.
I don't know if we will need it, but if we do, it goes like where it says dev on line 20 or 35, and just like view the source of the deck object, so we have the identification. So that's the whole deck. Why library that for it, just for reference.
And there's also a card.
Yeah. It's in the same file.
Yeah.
So, who would like to start on the navigator? Who would like to start with this? I would step out.
Should we have a like high level objective before we start, or
Um,
leave that to the navigator? I don't.
So I think we need to move these to, evaluate, we're working on the aces and how to handle those, such as multiple aces. So as long as that evaluating hand seems to work fine, I think the rest is just gonna be programming the game one. Or we also have to do game, stand. So. that. Play. It's. Use the kind of foreground with your stuff. I know there's some tabs at the bottom that haven't been addressed yet.
There's some skipped tests.
Yeah.
There went.
That's the big who wins.
Still on the ace is 11 or 1, trying to figure that out.
Maybe.
See. Yeah, I don't know that there's any tests. Let's see. Leave ace correctly for aces. Is it passing?
There's some code that says value if 1, value.
Yeah, evaluate here.
Something like that. Scar.
On the left side, line 17.
Yeah.
We have to add and you have to do it. Or won't be able to. So that was like, I think we had kind of the point where we were, this is working with this, but I thought we were kind of near.
He speaks up when.
So, I mean, right now, it's, we can't have the markets, okay, thanks, and it's the only thing that, yeah, any, for us, we want, score is calculated for 4 cases. What the ones where we don't have data have more than one ace in a, and so what we need to probably do, for test it, is add a, another set of bars in a similar way, that would have 2 plus aces. And somebody. That's supposed to look like 2 aces would be, well,
Two aces.
2 aces would be what, like any of ace cards, but it could be an 8 or whatever.
Hearts, ace. So 2 aces should be.
So, yeah, ace, so what we want to restart, 2 aces, then also a, like, yeah, 64, though, it was 18. So that's still, we need to move this little list over to the
ace. Or
Oh, I think very good.
if we have two ace of hearts.
See, I don't know if there's a second of it.
Have it.
We'll
Say that for later.
Yeah, I think that technically, if I were running tests, I would assume, I would look at the deck and see if that's something. But I think with that, yeah, let's for like making it sane, making that fun. There, I think if we run that, we should see something. I think this should be okay. I mean, with one of our 84 we passed.
Yeah.
Good. So cool. 1, 2, 3, 4, wait.
Yeah, I passed this.
What is that? What, I see like you put all these cards in the deck.
So- I could.
Yeah.
So this is, finance has a thing called parameterized, and it's important to realize that it's parameterized, like many programs does, not parameterized. There's no way of frame. And so what it does is, what you're doing here is you're creating a hand with an expected score, and hand is that first list, and then expected score is the thing after the column in the middle there, and then you pass it into the test, and it does whatever you, however many listed items you have, it'll do that test that many times. And when PyTest runs, you can tell what this run a specific volume.
So in this first example, we're giving it a list here. The first example here, we're passing a hand, which is this list. And this is the tuple is the entire item that we're passing into the test. So the hand, which are the 2 cards in this list, and then the expected score, which is that 12 over there.
It unpacks it for you.
And then just to run it, you just highlight that part of the code with that frame of reference. Like you would highlight the function you want to do alongside that.
It's gonna run all of them.
Or it's gonna
You could, if you're running a framework, you can do that A, and then if you were to say, you could actually, each time a test runs in PyTest, it gets a unique name that it's identified for, that is not name any frame function or any frame values. So what you probably could do is if you put, like it says here, hand 1-20. If you said PyTest run, if you were running your PyTest in PyTest.k, that it should run that for. But you have to run everything once, so it's seeing it say how it's going to interpret for it to be ready to interpret. Right. Yeah. Once that.
You ready to switch? You made a test, good job.
More productive than I worked in.
Good for a minute. Figured it's coming sooner or later.
Mm-hmm.
The smaller crowd than that, so. Okay. So we got that as one. So what's the first one?
We can close that left.
Everybody, beaker here.
Beaker.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, I would think the next test that is failing, if I run all, well, it looks like we just ran it for that.
It's scrolling down.
Yeah.
Find the X.
Oh, okay, it's right there. Oh, cool.
Man, you guys use IDs
For everything are great. I have no idea how any of this works. Okay, cool. So,
So we're trying to.
oh, okay.
This makes sense. We're trying to hit, but because it just asserts false, right? Like this test doesn't have any substance.
Yeah, like we're evaluating a hand, but we're not. And do we have this method, or is that why it's wiggly? No, we don't have evaluate dealer hand. We have evaluate hand. So like we might. I see. Okay.
Alright. So we got into this about, so the dealer is the last player in the array, is that right?
So, yes, but we're giving the dealer 2 specific cards. In one case, it's the 10 and the 6, and then in another case, it's the 10 and the 7. So we're testing should the dealer hit.
Mhm.
So really, I don't think we need to evaluate dealer, that could just be evaluated.
Mhm.
But then we're gonna have to have function of should you hit it or not somewhere in the code that takes in that evaluation.
Let me try to move these little guys. Ah.
I have a question real quick. How is that working, or what is that doing, like evaluate underscore hand and then parentheses hand, like, for instance, I'm used to seeing something like a list.index, and that'll serve a function, or it'll do something, but how is that, what is that doing, and how's that working together?
Value hand is a function call.
Okay.
And then hand is the pass.
Okay.
And it's hand is a list of cards.
Types, you got that much. You can feel that. When
It really wants to,
says
it wants to have the type.
one.
It's not recognized as evaluate hand as a function in test scope.
We might not, we might,
On the
well,
very top.
it should be a function, it says there. Yeah, yeah, I think it's getting it now. It's just that I changed that line from the, what's in the repo, so it's also giving it.
Sorry, I'm looking at it.
And I haven't assigned it to anything. But I think we need to be over here, though.
Do we have a separate test for if the dealer has to hit if the player is over them?
The dealer hitting is independent of the players.
That'd be more in the play.
I think one thing to consider here is that, like, all we're trying to find out, like, the test that would fail would be something that was like more what we had before, right? Like, this test is gonna fail because we don't have a evaluate dealer hand. And if, I guess I would say that I think this is actually correct, and we should just think about what the outcome, maybe this isn't named exactly correctly in evaluate, that's a little vague, but like, should dealer hit and pass the hand, can use evaluate hand.
Another note in general is just we're looking for a failed test. That doesn't mean you have to test for everything that we want to do. We might be getting ahead of ourselves for test dealing must hit because we don't have any sort of loop of how to play the game. So maybe we want to work on that logic first. And then we can come back and make sure the rest of the tests pass. Does that make sense?
Normally what I would do it. So
Huh? But that is an off topic. Is that what it is? Yeah, but. Really loud mic is on. All right, so let's look over here. I have an evaluate hand function that will figure out how the score. We have a player that's just evaluating hand. Scroll down on the jack.high.
Oh god, it's upside down.
Cool. In it. Players equal 1, creating up hands for the player plus 1 additional for dealer. So now we need to I guess we'll run this in the terminal play it. So let's make a new function under the game object called play. So def play. Game object.
Okay.
And then we need the self object. Just one. So here, 4 player in self.players. Actually, yeah, You got it. And actually do 4 by comma player and enumerate self-stop players.
Help me out with the syntax.
It's a function call, so.
Okay.
Yeah. Next slide, just, player, print I, comma, player dot hand. Just to make sure that it goes through them all. Comma, player dot hand. And then down the bottom, below that, do a all the way. And if double underscore name equals quotes double underscore name.
I remember this.
Lowercase game equals uppercase game. And then game dot play. Next line. This is default. You need to call it, so parentheses. And then see the play button at the top right of that file. Hit that. And here we see player 0, their hand, and 1, and their hand. So now we have the ability to take that. So now in play, we can work on the implication of it. On the next line, say action equals input. IN. And then function call, you give it the string of hit or stand.
We're saying in the string.
Well,
So looking at it here for profit play, where players, they've seen their hand, and now the game's gonna prompt an action that says, okay, based on what you see your hand, you want to get their hand. So then, okay, great, okay, so, right below it, let's just do an action for, the hit. So if action equals, H string, with the line, then we have a function already for add a card.
Deal.
So we have to do, can I see the deal function?
Sorry. Here.
So it already has a, so is it, deal or Brennan player dot hands or is that gonna take the existing hand and then just add one more to it? That's gonna do.
So the pen,
we can print
Player dot hand.
So it's showing for still both players here, or what just happened?
We had 3 of them.
3 cards and I have 7. 0, 1, 0, 1. 0. Oh,
Let's run that.
Not only that, it's showing, when it's printing, it's showing both 0 and 1. We're still doing the, because it's. Because what it's then going back to is
So there's a bit of a logic.
Yeah. Because it's going right back to that.
So you probably need to change this into a while loop.
Like, wow, Taylor, like, we,
This is for like input, so it'd be what, like, after you've hit and the result has happened, it goes back to asking you to like hit or stay.
Well, you should probably
Actually, here.
add it up first to make sure you're.
So we see this line here, which is the initial hand, and then we hit. And then here you see there's actually 3. And then it just jumps to the next player.
I think another thing.
Yeah.
Reconcile that right now, but I do feel like we're getting into the territory because we're doing things that feel unbalanced.
say that again.
Well, because, we're like inside of the plate and stuff, we're doing a lot of things, we're like, singing. We don't necessarily have that for the test for. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Those are kind of start with the test side.
What are the good tests for?
What would the test be that we're going to write to verify what the play, and if that's too big and complicated? That's yeah, so I think we were still not in a bad spot on the field of tip because they was part of the play loop, but
it's like, every kind of ability, S, 1, 3, 4, hit 1 card, hit added.
yeah, and we still don't have enough. I feel like
So right here, we have these 2 these 2 tests. But
they don't exist anymore.
the hit function is not something that's in the game itself, and we haven't implemented the stand feature either. So we should probably work on these and implementing the test better, and then we can work on the dealer side.
You may have to talk me through the app a little bit here since I've used it.
And we have the word.
All right.
So I can do
So let's go to the, roll up. Find player class. And let's add a method there. Yeah. Or.
the rebel. Are you being?
Delete one line.
Are you?
R, no, PR.
Rebel.
R, sorry.
Delete.
Hit, again, it's not like. Are you?
That's great. It's probably like zip rapid.
It's just a function call, I think, like. And then let's do sum. It is a sum and the sum. So it's gonna be a return. And we're going to do, let's do a list comprehension. So empty list. You see our card for our self. What we really want is we're going to go back to the start of that list comprehension. And we want to return our dots. The value well.
Is that a tuple?
As the season ends, or on you. And right after the brackets, then right after card value inside parentheses, comma, and then card dot sweet. Yeah. What's one that? Let's go back to the play function. And now in the spots where we're printing player at the end, we can print it there.
Just print player.
Also on line 15.
What about just print?
Print player in the last.
Just player, okay.
We have
Yeah. All right.
I have another question. Why did you name that?
Remember in the string representation of something, like it's when you print an object, it will try to print the string representation. So in our case, when we run right now, previously we saw this like card suites, and it's a list because we were printing the hand. And then inside those things, there's a card, and then it says like suite, blah. But if you ever created a game object, for example, and if we just said print game, right? And we run this, at the very bottom, it's gonna.
But you gotta fix the broken class.
Just get rid of the letter dot there.
It says this, like, gives you a gobbledygook out. But if you were to add a representation to the game, it would fix it. So, yeah, well, need to fix this, sorry.
Probably just want to like print out players. Yes.
String, let's see.
Oh, that's. Just do something that use the joy. Oh, that's good.
You want to do like a touch, join. I'm doing, what is it? Let's go fix this.
You can see how it's getting a little bit cleaner to me.
Yeah, no, that's really cool, but I didn't know about the solution.
Yeah, there's there's a Dunder Rubber, and then there's the Dunder Stir, STR. And I forget exactly how the two play off of each other. Like, the stir comes from the Dunder Stir, more like what you want to have other people see. And the Rubber is like, what do you need to know to recreate this object?
Yeah, so the Thunder sure is for user friendlier stuff, and the Thunder Rubber,
Yeah.
Developer.
whether you need to do it again.
I forgot about this there, but you can just do this, and this would be the same thing. So it's like your string and your representation, which are, they're used differently, but they're very similar, like you syntactically.
Thunder Rubber and Thunder, you're customizing, it's bringing it all together. Figure out how to make any string, make any pepper, hat.
I'd say hash a little bit specific, but yeah.
Right.
Okay. How do you get the nice little icon? That class, where's the sweet enum?
I'll jump up Navigator, help figure out how to get that pretty.
Six.
No, I was just trying to figure out
Earn that 5-drum license.
Oh my.
There's no wrong answer.
Still trying to get her.
Shot.
Okay. I'm gonna distract you. Oh, okay. How'd you do?
Sweet, so I went in here,
Oh,
I got the enum.
sweet.
Suit.
Sorry. Jesus.
I mean,
Let me see, is this,
It's big sanctuary.
thank you. That'll work.
So what's the 0-2 in front of the one of Diane's 7 clubs? What's the 0-2 that's printing there?
Number of cards and the player's ID.
So what's our objective?
Skylar's gonna tell us in a second, sorry.
He's making it pretty bad.
Trying to.
Okay, so for the first layer, or that was just the materials. Okay, so, just thinking through this. You have an action, you have a hit or stand. And you don't know if they're working. But our pistol, so, should we test that the number of cards are correct on the hit? If action is hit and we do this self-death deal, player hand, can we test that what that player's hand is the correct number of cards on hit? Or I'm sorry, on hit.
That's this one, the player should have one more card after hitting. So we have a test for that.
Test as we go. Should.
still have the same errors that we had before with the evaluate dealer hand.
So here's like, before you draw the line. So we have, you scroll up to the hit test on the right. Just scroll up a little. Nope, wrong side. There you go. So we have the game, and then we have game.deal, and then in the game.play loop, if you scroll down, we have the, basically the same process done there. So the question is, do we need,
The code and the tests are really linked, so if you change the code on the left, that's an action, that
Exactly.
an action test.
But the question is that a small enough, or, so to really test things, what we'll probably need to do is pass in parameters to play for like initial hands and a sequence of operations, something like that, to get it to play through the way that we expect it to play.
So does that mean we need to make another, well, actually, no, I guess like, would you make a PyTest? Could you make a PyTest parameterize, with then, and then send that through like logic? Or just pass, no, then just. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is where it starts to get a little tricky, because it's like, is this enough logic to warrant its own function and something that we tested? Ideally, the tester would probably get everything under a test, but it's
The question of if you're, in this case, in the test function, right, we're doing game.deal, passing a hand, and then in this one, we're doing self.deal. It's like, couldn't call it the exact way, same way.
yeah. I think the best way to go about this, as far as the testing side goes. I'm going to talk through what I'm thinking, and y'all can chime in. But we have the initial hands that we instantiate the game to start from a known state. And maybe, actually, maybe we have an initial deck so that that can be, list of cards with a specific order to deal. So let's say we gave like 6 cards that we know, okay, these are the order that's going to deal in. So, if self.cards equals initial deck, if not self.cards, then self.cards would be dealt and shuffled. So now this way we can pass it in a specific game or deck to test against. And then in the play function, we can have
actions equals a list.
So where if we pass in actions here, it will just go through those steps in order. Otherwise, we will get the,
let's do a defined actions. So it's like if defined actions play else get the action.
I'm gonna let someone else. Yeah. So I'm just roughing it out as an idea. Does this make sense? So that like over here,
You're just trying to like streamline the tests.
yeah, so now we can have player hand equals this, or this could be starting deck equals that.
Then the
Starting with that because they get handed out at a time, or?
what did I call it?
So here, my thought is it will take the cards, and then it's gonna just deal the cards. So it's gonna deal the first two to the first player,
Next two to the next player. Which means let's just make that diamonds so they're different cards. So assert len of game dot players 0 was that. Here we'll have to work on
I think on the game object, initial that being an empty list, it's gonna create logs, Python evaluates at the beginning, so that empty list will, that's the one thing that's supposed to pass. It should be none, and then it can be 7 later. We can change it.
Since I've done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, something feels. It's what it will do is initial that, in that case, if you have to get that on, initial that gets set in Python and but it's always going to be that. And so when you add things to it, you're not going to be passing it, it doesn't call that method without anything that. It's going to use the one that's already in there. Because it's a list, it's not, so you can't add it. And so it doesn't know what the list is.
You need something that retains that initial list as an empty list and then it updates it something else.
If you try to pass an empty list in as a default for a method signature, the way that Python file and
who's going to look at that empty list, it's going to create a list object, that list object is going to exist. So like, it's always going to use that list object because it's not, we could have to use it, but it basically means every time try to pass it into it won't have to. The last time.
Alright, let's see if this even. Stuff there does no. That's good. Oh. Yeah. I was loaded the deck as a deck.
I'd be able to, typecast that, actually, the list.
Yeah.
Might be able to. Right now, you have it as a list cards in the casket.
Talk about doing like that.
Yeah. Might work.
Take us to a different. Offhand.
It's your fault. Okay. Iterator.
Yeah.
So the card is,
Rubber.
What do we need to do there?
It was there.
Non-tech has no attribute value.
The suit value or card value under stir was quoting, right?
So say. Oh,
It's because it's iterated in list already once. So you need to.
you see the solution?
The problem is that it acted you by hand.
This should still be a hand.
It's a Q on the print hand there before you.
Does it give you the string output in here?
You have to run a certain dash something to get the output. I mean, podcast.
I don't know. Yeah, all right, so
Feel so weird.
if we can go with that layout for the moment and come back to that later. Now we just need to work on logic to actually implement the fact that we are saying here, play the action of hit. And then go from there. So with that, I'm gonna put something else.
You say that again.
So, how this is working now is we're passing the initial deck to the game. That's gonna deal the first three cards to the first player, deal the next three cards to the dealer, which is the second player. And then play is taking a defined action. Hit. So this can be a hit, stand, whatever, to play through how we describe to get dealt. But I intentionally didn't write the logic here, because it's really just pull off the first thing. There's a whole bunch of logic that we're going to write to make that work. But this will allow us to write tests for conditions for hitting and standing for both players and the other. Which is just another player. Or if we don't have defined actions for the same follow, then it will just prompt the user for the player. So that's how you can kind of get into the code a little bit. We're testing,
Whatever it is.
because this needs to change once, and then the test will probably pass. Like if I make that an H, there, the test will pass, but it's not doing what we want it to do. Y'all confused.
Sure.
Alright.
I watched you break the code.
And please read.
Alright, so. Action equals defined actions dot pop. Is pop pulled from the front?
Yeah.
It's top. Cool. So now,
Check if there's a
what do you mean?
Is there a pop, right? Just delete it and see if it's on. I think you're gonna do like pop. Doing the complex.
Actually,
I think it might be a remove dot zero.
I'm just gonna do it this way. See if that works. No.
Given that variable multiple names, is that right? With action, common, defined actions.
Oh, we're passing them consistent.
Yeah.
It's pop index with pop zero. -1 is the default argument of last item. You pass pop 0, pop 3.
And action stuff. Said pop index underscore.
Pop method call 0. Call.
So if the defined actions ever give you the function is list, and they stand, whatever, so what we just did for the, what did we just do on line 63?
On here?
Like, so if defined action's been populated, right?
Yeah.
So what did we just do with that pop?
So. Alright, so let's say this little, oh, that's a wrong. So it should just pull off the first item of the list and leave the rest of the list intact. So if we do,
So the pop action would, you're creating a action, which is that first. Its value is gonna be the first thing in the list of defined actions, but now the defined actions no longer has that value in it.
So it will, so if the first player will hit, second player, stand, third player, stand. And each time that's called on.
I mean, you can, the first player will hit, then stand, and then the next player will stand. So if I were to play this, so you can see I have defined actions here,
Okay.
and you can see how it's taken off the elements.
It's because they have to stay stand. Player,
Yeah, or
stand before progressive.
the bus differences.
The one you create in the game where you this option for
Defined actions.
defined action.
So that we run tests to make sure that the hit function works. So we're given a predefined deck of cards in specific order. And we're saying, as you go through the players, we want them to
What
take
takes this game to look like if it's like in this case here, that's the test that we're doing.
Yeah. So, what's the actual error we're getting with?
But really that, in the gameplay loop, that 62 actually is really only going to be called or used in our testing. We're actually playing the game.
Right.
Cool.
So.
In Unity.
So we give it the initial deck.
Yeah.
And then the init function will deal hands to the players. So that's how the player hands get defined.
So the reason the assertion error is given here is because player 0 will hit player 1, 995.
You are correct. Put that 0 back in there. There we go. So now we have a test that tests that
the first player will hit, and then stand, and then the next player will just stand. And
Did it, what they test this particular one? Players.
let me put this back here. That didn't work. So in theory, we can test that view.
If you wanted to do it to occur,
So if we do that, then
so it passed, but you haven't actually asserted that, doing that test with the third one. Right, so you want to, then players can have 2 equals 3.
yeah, that's what that should be.
Okay.
So yeah, it should be the player hits and then they stand.
Player 0 reached that. 0 2. 2 after.
We can make this a little bit better, but you go until you either hit or bust, and we don't have the logic to do the bust.
Right.
So actually, we don't have any logic for standing. So really, I'm gonna get rid of this because that's just not actually part of the test. Because we're only testing the hitting part. We don't have the stand logic where it's going to jump to the next player. Yeah. So this test right now says given a specific set of cards that is the deck to start, initialize the game, deal the hands in that order, and then let's make sure that the first guy has 2 cards as expected, play through the expected sequence where the first player hits, and yes, he has an extra card. Now we can work on developing the play loop a little bit more. Does that clear things up for people yet? Or is this gonna turn back into pandemic era where you're just typing?
I mean, that would suck.
I did it for 3 years. Huh?
So you're trying to, you need a test for if the player stands, then it moves to the next player. We have a next navigator.
Sounds like you wanna be an X. So in the play loop, we're gonna have to go through each player one by one. So let's pretend Matt player 1, Patrick's a dealer. But hey Matt, what do you wanna do? He says, hey, cool, it's automated for him. Or if he wants to stand. So say you're dealt a 2 and a 3. You're gonna probably hit more than once. With the way this is going, you only have the option to hit once, and then it just jumps to the next guy. So we need to turn this into a loop to evaluate your hand until you either bust or choose to stand. And bust is just evaluate hand is for every 21. Then it can automatically jump out. And then it can jump to the next player. So we'll need a while loop or something in here.
Could we do on line 70 while true? And then break it into, I don't know.
We probably wanted at line 16. It hasn't been touched in a while.
Come on.
Alright, we have time. Go for it.
Okay, so,
I'm here to help, don't worry.
no, I know we want to do a while loop. So I guess at the start of this function, or at like line 59, I guess, we'll move everything down and put a while true.
Well, think about it this way. I'm gonna say, alright. You got the first player. I'm gonna stick with this player until he busts. And then, so this is a, so the for loop for all the players goes, I'm gonna go to Matt, then I'm gonna Pat. Go all with Matt, that needs to be with Matt.
Oh, right, so it should be within each player, not within the global. Yeah. Yeah, so it should be, yes, well, let's do while true. And then it's just gonna keep going until the player either stands or busts. So if they choose to hit, then we gotta evaluate to see if they bust. And I know we have an evaluate hand function. I think above somewhere. So I just can't remember. Okay, so it just is bust. Oh, okay, so can we just do that on players? Player that is, or that is true, then 3. No, wait, we actually will have to continue, yes.
For sure.
But do we need to evaluate
Take
if,
this break because you're in the while loop now.
I think we're also doing this. Right, we add when it's your player is buzz at the top. So that, and so that we don't let them take another hour, or maybe it has to be the last, last thing that we.
so let's please move the, so then line 74, move it in and into.
So what we do is while player is bust.
Yeah.
This is what you were saying, Dakota, right?
Yeah.
And then you don't have to check it at the bottom.
You only rate the ones that it's.
That's the.
And then the else condition would be.
So my suggestion is that we might want the player to have like.
That's stand.
Yeah, like, but like we want stand to be like. Sand set.
S is well. Or we can just say S is the suggested value, but anything other than an H counts as a stand.
That's gonna be. It's gonna piss you off a little bit if you hit the wrong key.
Yeah, the feedback.
Yeah.
Really the range and the input of that particular get a key wrong thing if you really.
Well, oh yeah, actually, just put.
That condition we just did, it's gonna break it under the condition where either it has busts, you know, it's no longer sure where they put S. Is that what we just did there?
So while bust, if not bust,
Yeah.
the player, if they did the hit action then we'll continue that loop again. And if they're not bust, then they can get to choose whether they want to stand or they will hit again.
Like, when does it run in the, all those lines?
As soon as
Each
it's
time.
right
At
there.
the start of each loop iteration.
Oh, it's the start. Oh, okay, perfect.
Let's go through one more rotation and then call it. Anyone want to navigate?
Right, let's say everybody knows a feeling, what's the deal?
I think those who haven't gone are trying to not go.
Yeah, I'm trying to learn here. I'm now, things are moving a little bit. Maybe just stay with that.
You're also welcome to just get up there and ask questions.
That's it.
Okay, this is well, not clear. Let's see the dash line, I think.
Oh, we're talking about
So that's something with our, is bus.
Wait, when the type error. Yeah, so what we must have is something that's getting the value. Some card has a value.
Is it player dot get this bus? Can we go back to the is bus, they were going.
All right.
Let's, self-evaluate self. Dot, and in this case, we said it's player, so player dot here, it should still. What's the little bit of this?
Jack, this is line 12. Can you go to line 12? On Jack, move on. Saying card dot value is a non-type.
What's
For
the
some
card
reason,
is
that's like, can we close the test error? What happened to this test?
Yeah, I think it's because what we're passing isn't an actual
Yeah.
deck.
How do you clear this? You just click it?
Yeah,
To run it, yeah.
that's the error.
So, down here.
Let's mark this test as failed.
How do you?
Like, we're
Big market is failed.
Yeah.
right there.
Add by test marked. That's fair. I like some of the functions lower down in the test suite. X, or scale.
Oh, okay.
Brian, we were skipping that. And it wasn't because if I was hearing, say, really, we're in a function where using the DAC, whereas this is actually.
Yeah, we tried to make our own custom deck, but with a liquid card, that didn't really work. Realize.
We don't care about the values. We don't need to give it to target back. You just need the hand. Or, so all 991 on test deck, get rid of the Asian technical starting deck. No, keep the game. Game. So that's it. And then comment outline gating on that. Yes. And now run
text by clicking in the getter to line 81.
Wait, next to line 81.
Yeah, right there. Click that.
Oh.
All right. Huh. Why was that? All right. So. Yeah.
Now it's hitting the inputs. So
I'll go through and, but, yeah, respect them, have thoughts, comments, questions, concerns, anything, write down, I'll plug them in a bit. When we get to the dealer must pay part, we're gonna have to need to know the values of the cards. To solve that at some point, but for the hit and stand functionality, we actually need to create effects.
So that thing, I would probably sort of thought that would be a quick, that quick order, so I always knew what order it was going to be. Try and use that throughout here. Yeah, I think you can tell box. I think they have something in it. And I think you might even be able to, we're not using that before, but we can, that's why on that, there is like an edit. Give me the card.
That's what's kind of fine.
yeah, I think the other thing you can do here is just like in the test, read the value of the hand as you're dealing it, so that you're always.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to be hitting players hand, in values, just automatically. It can be like, if you need hand value an attribute on the player, like a method of the attribute, we'd be able to call it and then use that. Would be
Yeah.
I was doing some Swift recently, so they have like that computed attribute things. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, the data bot stuff is really nice. There you go.
Not very close. Alright.
I just want to look at the back.
So I'll go through. Just walk away from the point, so. Alright. That like, these things have. Not so much, I we could work coding, I had a creating a doing survey. And people type First, the encouragement to be navigated, all of them are very improved. We had played around with going navigator, Titus, or Titus navigator. I think we kind of felt that navigator Titus were a little bit better, but we can always change it up next time.
Question really quick. You mentioned earlier that you could go up there and ask questions, and then spent like 4 minutes. And
And you have to have I have no clue what's going on. I just start asking questions. That could be your entire turn. I was just sitting there.
that's amazing.
Pretty sure that's all it is. Already.
I mean, the whole point is
Yeah.
wasn't expecting us to finish the well-polished blackjack game. I mean, cool, we did.
Most things cover talk through testing code and even navigating code in a group. People. So I mean, I think I get a lot more out of this. That's the. This is much coding than you just like the interface. Like so they know where to talk about, and all those kinds of things. Super not easy to practice in a work scenario when it's a little more high stakes or when someone is making you feel bad about it. Like you're like, it's like, there's no math here.
Certain things that I have trouble with talking about is like, in my mind, brackets, parentheses, stuff, when I'm writing code, that's all like the same thing. It's, so I have trouble being like, write a parentheses or a bracket or like, it's because I'm not verbally communicating when I'm coding myself. So having to say these things is interesting.
You can just be a little intimidated here. People are going out, right? You want to carry that rate, so you feel like you're slowing things, like the process. That's
why it's important for me and Chris and we like, this is okay. This is supposed to be that safe-based player.
Just at full typing speed without them. So if someone's doing that, they probably haven't been. Once they get the navigator, that's it might happen. I think one thing that I've seen here, most of the time, the typing isn't necessarily what the concept. I think sometimes what makes it hard to follow is that it is trying to conceptualize more than like have player class. That's like all of them to like reference with each other. It can be hard to like know if people are following like where you're thinking about the code versus where
This is a very, this is kind of an open-ended sort of exercise, not like giving any direction on like how to do this. People are coming out and sort of trying to, I think the practice is kind of figuring out how to direct and like when you're not giving direction. And I'm sure in other coding nights we'll have one that's a little bit more direct of a problem or, variety of things, that stuff that you want to see, then, keep talking about things that you want to see or things you have issues with. And Ryan and Chris talk and try to have this be fun.
Adam, Chris, and I talked.
This book, so this is standard 10 as like the first edition, the greater and it's like there's so many features, like there's no reason to be like this. We've landed on some of the stuff that makes it simpler kind of like in some of this, but I think if you're really testing especially like the calls and stuff, can save you a lot of time organizing your tests. If like you or someone that if like there's a lot of ways to slice and dice the file system. That's just literally all you have. Attributes,
Next one, I believe we hit the limit of convert code tester development. Programming.
I agree with that.
We definitely have to the point where like okay, how well do we proceed? But that also, the interpretation of like, okay, here's how you're injecting into your code, not affecting at runtime, but it's how you gain confidence in this function that otherwise you don't have any way to get in there, make sure it works right. But I'm not saying that this is the best way, I'm saying I'm extra on all, as a development, that was just the fastest solution that I saw was to inject a predefined list back.
Yeah, the thing that I was thinking also is maybe just like in the name of an architect, like if we would have had like a, hey, here's a flow chart, basically what you're going to build, or here's like classes that like the architect says that this can be done. You know, like if we would have had like a little more space, then like the lighting can come through, like, oh, the players are just doing these things.
And some of that was like, I didn't want to dictate anything, but
Yeah.
regardless,
That's like hopefully perfect because
Yeah.
it was completely imperfect.
I mean, hopefully when you're in a software development shop, like you have some of your architecture review spec, where you like go over, like, this is how a game's gonna like flow and,
Right.
and I'm gonna break that into user stories and.
But yeah, just trying to make it. You know, kind of.
I got a few ideas for other things that would work for the course of a couple months, that I'll like scout out a lot more before we get into it. So we don't have all the things that we got here, but still we be fairly loose. Let's take it from there. I think we're getting better at checking in during rotation to time the goal. I would agree. And even still, I saw a bunch of people who seem like they're pretty lost. COVID and, but I think we worked better together tonight to get where we're going. Function B, you call a variable by function A if they're in the same class. That's assuming it stores the class variable, so you have to be able to access the same or scope. But I'm not sure what specifically.
That was me. I saw like, so there's a group called class and then had a few different functions in it. And there was a variable being called by a ladder function that was generated by a formal function. And so they share a scope, and I didn't know that, I didn't realize that variables share a scope if they were in a class within functions. I hadn't worked with classes before, so.
Yeah, so like within a function, things that get defined in there, variables stay in there, or those are in a class or a module or something for the package. Yeah, that where you define your variables equals where it's accessible, use it.
By default. So
Yeah.
the interesting thing about Python, and like this is different from Java, where there is no real encapsulation. Everything is, you can just dive into the class and dive deeper, and everything is accessible to anything else. Really.
Raymond Heidegger refers to it as a consistent language. You have an underscore method and you have the double underscore method for indicating the thing shouldn't be used. Use the AST to pull the class, pull a method out, and instantiate that method into their class, there you have it. You can call other classes and objects that aren't even into like it's in
Right, the standard library. Yeah, so you can do a lot of things that you're not supposed to do with Python. So there's like the things you can do and things that you should do are two separate things. But yeah, just to like when you're doing within classes, yeah, it's like if there's a global in your class, you really shouldn't be using it as a property, you know. now, like, but sometimes we do, and
Wild, is a thing, so yeah. And a wild is always the evaluating issue. So that's, as what, that here was, you say, you can negate it by using the not keyword. So while not players plus game. I appreciate being able to ask questions. That's what we're here. Where? This one was a good point to have a bookmark as a stopping point. So we know where to get it in, so we can come back after a month. For this case, I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna kind of finish up the game a bit, and we'll come back and try to recap this one. But, I guess I'll give a demonstration of how it works, how it flows, and figure out how we can cleaner, easier to read. Last one, I love Chris here. I like seeing it look IDE. There's nothing in PyCharm in my mind, and looking at the code is PyCharm last month or 2 weeks ago. I had a different team on it and like, oh, that actually solved my biggest issues with PyCharm. But I do say
and it's great.
Yeah, I mean, I use Python, but I don't. Python use it.
And honestly, there's a lot of stuff in here where it's like, okay, well, I want to play my game here, but I want to debug it. I can just go and bug Python.
Yeah, but it's nice.
So, and I don't like PyCharm is specific to Python. If you use more than one language or like I do, you end up doing some like JSON editing or something else. I don't know how well I handles switching language context. Yeah, I'm sure it does.
It's got a lot. Yeah, I mean, you completely awesome. Like, I mean, generate stuff. So, really, really, see. So it's like, it is not the best for stuff like that, but if you're, I basically use my app for me.
Yeah, I used the Java version of the JetBrains thing for a while,
I had Eclipse back in the day.
and then like Amazon has specific plugins for that, and I was there using that, and then some reason something wasn't working with WSL on Windows, and then I switched to VS Code, and it like then I magically found out that VS Code has all these plugin libraries now that are just as good as
in Microsoft product as a field for Microsoft's.
yeah, I mean it does work really well with WSL.
Yeah, a couple of friends got this with me, but they're, yes, like, for full cloud development.
Yeah, like this will work if you use this as a remote line.
Yeah.
Another machine, it can work.
Okay.
So,
Also, if you're on GitHub, and I don't know if this is on the free version or
Yeah,
just have a quick one.
I do have Copilot. But I'm talking about like if you're in an editor
oh,
and then you go to like
period.
a thing and press period, it'll take you to VS Code on the web sort of editor.
I usually have to, yeah. Yeah.
then you can install Python, and I think this just does the editor. It won't run it.
No.
That's my course.
This is my former engineering. Like 30,000 people. What did you do it?
I'm gonna plug my course here quick. So I worked on this earlier this year, but one of the things that I'm very proud of is that I had a code editor inside of here that runs Python. Yeah, it's the Monaco editor, which is what VS Code uses for this area is Monaco, because VS Code is just JavaScript running in a Tron container. But this is the thing that runs on PyScript, which is PyGuide, which is WebAssembly version of the Python interpreter. So it can run in JavaScript. So it runs in here, and so I have these little examples where you can run the code. Yeah, so I had some wrap up stuff with some test samples and stuff. So yeah. All right.
Thanks, everybody.
There's a lot of time.